In today, the Muslims will sacrifice black goats as a kind of a goodwill offering, if you want to call it, or a kind of a sin offering, that if they have troubles in their lives, they will put their hand on the black goat and they will have it sacrificed so that their troubles can go onto the goat. So black goat is important in that area. Black goats are common. Now coming back to King Solomon, where do we find King Solomon's identity? We are going to progress into that. Song of Solomon chapter 5 verse 2. I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved that knocks, saying, come open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is filled with dew, and my locks with the drops of the night. What are these locks? These are braids. This is talking about King Solomon. King Solomon had braids, he had locked hair, the locks that you might see on a Rastafarian. That's the kind of locks we're talking about. The locks that you see on Negroid people. Yeah, Negroid, if you heard that right. So these locks define King Solomon. White people who have long hair do not have locks. Doesn't matter if their hair is falling down to their feet, they never have locks. On the other hand, Negroid people, when they grow their hair long, naturally it locks. So this is talking about King Solomon with locks. That should be 100% proof that he is a black man. But we don't stop there, we go further. I want to show you something else which is quite important, because in a discussion that I got in with perhaps a Caucasian man or a while ago over the internet, he was obviously trying to show me that King Solomon's white. Ignorance breeds ignorance, unfortunately. He quoted this verse to me, one of these verses, Songs chapter 5 verse 10. My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. He said, look, he is white. It's written white there. Well, just because somebody mistranslated the Hebrew, does it mean that he's white? We have to look at what the Hebrew text says. And we have to notice that this is King James Version Bible. In the Hebrew it says, Dodi Zach Adum. Now I'm going to read out the version AFNHSS, Abrahamic Faith Nazarene Hebraic Study Bible, what that says. So the Hebrew, now those people of you who speak Hebrew out there, listen carefully. Dodi Sach. Here we go. Let me find the text here first. Dodi Asach Adum. Now the text reads, my beloved is dazzling in the Abrahamic Faith Bible. The word Sach, I'm going to show you the word Sach, the Hebrew word, is here. Zadi and a Chet. I'm going to come back to this Zadi and Chet in a minute, but Zadi and Chet are important. The Chet character always defines something quite important of a person's character. Always. It is used in Hebrew, in ancient Hebrew, in such a way. So when we say Zach, the term actually means dazzling in this particular instance, in context. He is dazzling and reddish black. The Adum does not mean red as most people have translated it. Zadi, Dodi Zach Adum. Now, your Bibles may translate it as white and ruddy, and most of the Bibles out there I've seen, Hebraic roots and what have you, always translated the similar way. They are incorrect, unfortunately. This is where the Abrahamic Faith Bible is miles better. Dodi Zach Adum actually does mean that his skin was dazzling. When you look at a black man standing in the sun, notice his skin is shining. So the dazzle on his skin is what this is talking about. It is not talking about his color. Zach does not mean white. And I will prove that to you in a second. I will prove it to you from the Jerusalem Bible that it does not mean white. White is an incorrect translation. Whoever put it in there was obviously ignorant of the text, didn't know, and so decided to make it white. For instance, the JPS, which is a Jewish publication Bible, it reads, my beloved is white as well. Okay? Now again, this is incorrect. Very, very incorrect. Why is this incorrect? Even in the Jewish publication Bible. Well, if you want to take on the identity of another people, well, then King Solomon becomes white. If you want to take the identity of Abraham and call yourself Muslims for argument's sake, Muslims say that Abraham was a Muslim. Therefore, For all practical purposes, Adam is a Muslim, Abraham is a Muslim, Moses is a Muslim. You take on the identity. That's actually what has happened. A lot of the people in Israel are converts. They are proselytes, what we call proselytes. They are not the sons of Shem, many of those people. This is a known fact. Those people came from the regions of for instance, Khazar. So you need to look up this history, who these people are. They're sons of Japheth. They're not sons of Shem. However, they have taken on the identity. So when these people will translate the text, and remember, JPS wasn't translated in the first century. It was translated centuries later. Then, of course, you can make it whatever you want to, whatever fits the bill. That has happened, unfortunately, sometimes. Whether that was deliberate or not, that's not the argument. Discussion is it did happen. So we look at the word zach, which doesn't mean white. So what is a Hebrew word for white, you might ask? The Hebrew word for white, my friends, if you want to look it up, is Laban. Remember Laban? Do you remember Eliezer, Abraham's servant, going to Laban? He is described as white. That is the term for white in Hebrew. Please check it in your Bibles in the book of Genesis. So the word Adum. Now why did I translate Adum as reddish black in the AF Bible? You might say Adum means red. If you said that, you would be wrong, because you are going with popular translations again, not with ancient translations, ancient text. Let me bring you back. Alif, Dalit and Mim in Adum. Look over here, the African continent. And I spoke about the Nilotic people. Hebrew Israelites are a Nilotic people. Look over here and notice that when the word Adum is used in the Bible, it's not describing their color as red, incorrectly as perceived. It is actually describing that where they came from, earth. They came from the earth near the Nile, the fertile soil. So it's describing the fertile soil. So when blood goes into the ground, it mixes in the soil. What do you get? Red, black. That is what the translation should have been. Adum. It should not be red. Red is actually very wrong. Saying just ruddy. Ruddy what? Ruddy is not really a color as such. And then the argument that it fits onto a white skin is a false argument, because it's not even talking about white skin. So the word Adum means red, black. How do we prove this from the Torah? I've got to prove it from the Torah, otherwise it's just my opinion. But I'm going to prove it from the Torah. In Genesis chapter 4 verse 10, and the seed, and Genesis 4:10, and he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. Now here, the word for blood is dam. Okay? And the word for earth is adamah. This is what we call a Hebrew wordplay, where the blood fell into the ground, mixed into the clay, and you end up with red-black. Okay? That is why the term should be translated as red-black and not as red or ruddy. Black people often, in the past, the Egyptian pictures, you will see that they had a reddish hue to them. And if you look carefully at a brown skin of a black person, if you look at the skin, you will see a red hue sometimes. Even on their face, you will see slight red hue. But you got to look carefully. So, going back to this, that we find that the ancients, when they saw the fertile Nile Valley over here, when the ancients saw it, they associated the color of blood with the earth, meaning earth and blood together. You can't separate the blood from the earth, because the original man was created here. If he was created here in the continent of Africa, which is known throughout the world, Israel being in Africa, then you can't dispute that. It's indisputable. So we can see the word play going on in that particular text. Now the word zach. The word zach, I'm going to come back to that. That actually means, as I described earlier, dazzling. And the other translation for the word zach is hot. Now, notice the inconsistency of the King James Version translators. So what they did, they took the word zach here in the text of King of Solomon, Songs of Solomon, and they translated it white. At another place, they did not translate it white, they translated it as dry. Notice the difference? What's the difference between dry and white? It's a big difference. So my friends, we must understand that there are reasons for this, but we're going to end it here. We're going to end it here, and we're going to continue in the next segment, and we will call that the next part of it, because this has gone on for long. So I want you to stay with me, and we will come back shortly in the next segment. Thank you. Shalom, shalom to you.